some discussion of his first fast, the second, the third, 11th. What were they about? Who were they directed at? Or Moraj's fast in 1975 in Ahmedabad, when he asked Indira Ji to give an election, and in 3 days she did. Or the 23 fast in which the Mahatma had engaged. What is the logic of this? Why do people take fast? Is fast justified in a democracy? What is the difference between a fast and a hunger strike? The distinction that bothered the Mahatma a great deal, and he wrote a book on the subject, where he says science of fasting. And he said, I am the only scientist and you will have to trust my judgment. Even I make mistakes. And the Mahatma saying there were 2 fasts of his, of which he was ashamed, and they were wrong. There is no discussion of any of these big issues. And you ask yourself, on an issue of this magnitude, why is our level of discussion so poor? No sense of history, no sense of ethical dialogue. Part of the reason is you are targeting an audience which has no interest in that kind of thing, which has no historical memory. So my suggestion is that as a result of these and other forms of crisis at various levels of our society, we face what I should call a fourfold crisis. There is crisis of institutions, whether it is the parliament or increasingly the judiciary in terms of corruption and things that have been going on. There is a crisis of political authority, that even someone, a senior cabinet minister or a prime minister or someone outside the political system, can you point to an individual who can stand up and for whom people would have such profound respect that he would say, my countrymen, this is wrong. This is not the way to go, although you are tempted. Think of, was it 1955 or 56 when Koti Sri Ramolu went on fast for a country called hunger strike. And the whole country was wondering how to respond to this man's fast. And Pandit Nehru, and I remember because I was a student in those days, he made a radio broadcast and he said this is wrong. And he talked about it for 25 minutes. And we all knew that here was Panditji, the heir of Mahatma, great moral authority, loved his country passionately, and if he tells us something, we must listen to it. That kind of authority acts as a bulwark against popular passions. Popular passions can be easily aroused and people can be swept. And at that point, who stops? Who stands against those passions? Institutions can be swept aside in a moment of popular frenzy. And there comes an individual who has built up this authority over a long period of time, whom we trust, and he says, don't go that way. Remember Mahatma's movements during 1922, civil disobedience? He fasted. Or during 1946, when there was communal violence in Calcutta and elsewhere, here was the man and the nation listened to him. Because the voice carried authority. And when I talk about crisis of authority, which we saw in the case of Anna Hazare and lots of other things, I couldn't think of a single individual who would have stood up before us and would come on the television and said, my fellow Indians, although I may be saying something you don't like to hear, this is wrong. And you would have listened. You would have made a pause. And a nation lacking individuals without that kind of authority is a nation in deep trouble, because passions can be easily aroused. And institutions like banks can be easily overrun. And there will be no individuals to stand up for us when we need their presence. There is also the crisis of political culture, what I call erosion of sensibility. And there is also, I think, the crisis of conscience, where there is enormous amount of consumerism, constant talk about 260 million Indian middle class, and you ask yourself, this is 260 million, what happened to 740? And on different criteria of poverty, somewhere between 42 and 68% of our people are below the poverty line, earning less than $1.5 a day. They get married. There is the crisis of conscience. So I think as a result of all this, there is a big problem. But we, and this is another thing that worries me, that we have reached a point where we don't want to face up to it. It's obscured partly because we have been lucky to have 8% growth rate, and so we only keep concentrating on the growth rate. And partly because, and I'm sorry to say this, but partly because all kinds of foreign powers have a vested interest in lulling us to sleep. Just take one simple remark. When George Bush and Condoleezza Rice told us that India is going to be a superpower, or even Condoleezza had the impertinent to say, we will make you a superpower, we started jumping up and down and congratulating ourselves. We are on the way to becoming a superpower. When the same president made the same remark to Chinese Prime Minister in public, then Biao, Chinese Prime Minister told his countrymen, don't fall for this. This is a trap. It's a trap so that we can go to sleep and forget our weaknesses. And it is also a trap designed to make us contribute more to international projects of all kinds. I shan't go into it. Same remark made to us, and it's above our chest, and it's wonderful, we are on the way to superpower. Same remark made to the Chinese, and they said, watch out, this is a trap. Let's look at our weaknesses. It's will be a superpower, not because they say so. It's not their gift. We will look at our weaknesses. We'll attend to every one of them. Thorough professional approach. And without that thorough professional approach, you face the situation that the Indian cricket team did in England.